In the early hours of a quiet October night in 1984, a promising young student's life was tragically cut short within the confines of her own apartment. This incident sparked a perplexing enigma that would linger over Dallas, Texas, for years to come. Picture a simple act of kindness, where opening your door to a stranger in need unknowingly becomes the pivotal moment that determines your destiny. Little did anyone know that the key to unraveling a heinous crime lay concealed, patiently awaiting the opportune moment. Angela Samota, affectionately known as Angie, was born on September 19, 1964, in Alhambra, California. She was an intelligent and ambitious student at Southern Methodist University, whose life mirrored the vibrant social scene of 1980s Dallas that she cherished. Angie stood out not only for her academic pursuits in the challenging fields of computer science and electrical engineering, but also for her active involvement in the Zeta Tau Alpha sorority, where she held the position of social chair. Despite still being a junior, Angie displayed her independent spirit by residing in her own apartment, which she diligently paid for herself. As the youngest of 5 siblings, she was renowned for her warm, cheerful, and genuine nature, effortlessly brightening every room with her radiant smile. Angie's appeal extended beyond her academic achievements. Her beauty and effervescent personality made her a beloved figure on campus. Juggling her active participation in sorority activities, a demanding double major, and a part-time job, she showcased an extraordinary level of determination and vitality. However, hidden beneath the surface of academic accomplishments and college festivities, a malevolent scheme was unraveling, leading to a fatal encounter with an unknown assailant. Who had ill intentions towards Angie, and what was their motive? On the night of October 12, 1984, everything seemed ordinary as Angela Samota, a 20-year-old, spent her Friday evening at the State Fair of Texas alongside her friends, Russell Buchanan and Anita Kadala. Angie's boyfriend, Ben McCall, a construction supervisor with early morning work commitments, regrettably couldn't join them. The fair was merely a prelude to their plans for the night at the exclusive Rio Room Dance Club. At the club, Angie, renowned for her sociable and vivacious nature, thrived in her element, effortlessly mingling and captivating those around her with her infectious energy and radiant smile. Little did anyone know that this night would mark her untimely demise. As the night progressed, Angie dropped off Buchanan near his apartment in Lower Greenville, followed by Kadala. Initially, Kadala had intended to spend the night at Angie's condo, but changed her mind due to Angie's early morning football game plans. Before heading home, Angie made a quick stop at her boyfriend, Ben McCall's residence. It was a routine farewell, a simple, "see you later." However, unbeknownst to them, the wheels of fate had already been set in motion. Angela returned to her condo on Asbury Drive alone. It was approximately 1:45 a.m. when McCall received a distressing phone call from Angie. Her voice trembled with unease as she mentioned an unfamiliar man who had appeared at her door, requesting to use her phone and bathroom, a seemingly innocent plea. But was it truly as harmless as it seemed? The call abruptly ended with Angie assuring McCall that she would call back, but that call never came. Instead, an eerie silence hung in the air. Worried, Ben attempted to reach her again, but there was no response. Overwhelmed by concern, he hurried to Angie's apartment, only to find the door locked and no answer to his persistent knocks. Panic consumed him. Left with no other choice, he utilized his early-generation mobile phone, an essential tool for his construction profession, to contact the authorities. The events that happened that night unfolded into a perplexing enigma. The local authorities arrived promptly after 2 a.m. and were met with a chilling scene behind the closed door of the apartment, one that would haunt the city of Dallas for years to come. For Rookie Officer Janice Crowther and her partner, who were already exhausted from a grueling 12-hour shift managing crowds for a major sporting event, the night had been exceptionally long. As they arrived at the scene, Crowther couldn't help but notice Angie's Toyota Supra parked outside, casting an eerie stillness over the apartment. A sense of unease washed over her as she sought out the apartment manager for access. "I was trembling with fear," Crowther recalled. "I could sense it. Something was amiss. It was an almost surreal night." What awaited them inside was a sight of pure horror. Crowther's partner ventured into the bedroom and discovered Angie's lifeless body lying on the bed, devoid of clothing, her skin stained with blood. Her wide-open, brilliant blue eyes seemed to convey the terror she had endured. The investigators began to piece together the fragments of this macabre puzzle. There were no signs of forced entry. Did Angie know her attacker? The subsequent autopsy report revealed a savage assault. Angie had been sexually assaulted and brutally stabbed 18 times, with numerous wounds piercing her lungs and heart, ultimately leading to her untimely demise. Traces of blood in the adjacent bathroom indicated an attempt to clean up after the heinous act. A lone shoe was discovered in the living area, while Angie's other shoe and clothing lay strewn on the floor beside her bed. The question lingered. Who could have perpetrated such a savage crime, and what could have been the motive? As dawn broke over Dallas, the sun's rays failed to dispel the darkness that had descended upon the city. A killer was on the loose, and the community trembled in fear. Little did they know, this was merely the inception of a mystery that would take decades to unravel. The Dallas Police Department faced an arduous task. A brutal crime had been committed, and the race against time to apprehend the culprit had begun. Angela Samota's lifeless body spoke volumes to the seasoned eyes of the investigators. Who could have had such motive? Who could have had the opportunity? The initial focus was on those closest to Angie. Ben McCall, her boyfriend, was the last person to hear her voice. However, as they dug deeper, the pieces of the puzzle didn't quite fit together. Ben had a solid alibi, supported by the timeline of events. The attention quickly shifted to others in Angie's circle. This included an ex-boyfriend, a friend with a history of violence, and Russell Buchanan, a 23-year-old architect who was known to have deeper feelings for her. The net of suspicion was cast wide. In a twist of fate, early DNA analysis provided a momentary breakthrough. The blood type found at the scene didn't match Ben's or the ex-boyfriend's, but it matched Buchanan's blood type. This cast a shadow of doubt over him. In a time when DNA technology was still in its early stages, polygraph tests were relied upon. Buchanan underwent the scrutiny of the machine and passed. However, the case remained unresolved. Despite the suspicions, the police lacked sufficient evidence to charge Buchanan, who eventually left the country for graduate school. As time passed, the trail grew cold. The community lived in fear, the family endured unspeakable grief, and a killer roamed the streets of Dallas. But this was not the end of the story. Angela's memory continued to burn brightly in the hearts of those who loved her, igniting a flame that would one day reveal the shocking truth. Despite the passage of time, the files of Angie's case remained stored in the archives of the Dallas Police Department. The evidence collected, the interviews conducted, and the DNA samples taken all awaited a breakthrough. In the world of criminal investigations, time can be both a blessing and a curse. While memories fade and leads grow cold, technological advancements open new doors that were once closed. The late 80s and 90s witnessed significant progress in DNA technology. Techniques that were once groundbreaking became routine, and databases of DNA profiles began to form, offering renewed hope in solving cold cases. However, as the 1990s transitioned into the new millennium, Angie's case remained unresolved. It would require more than just the passage of time and advancements in science to solve this case. It would demand the unwavering determination and perseverance of someone unwilling to let Angie's story conclude as an unsolved cold case. In every narrative marked by tragedy and injustice, there occasionally emerges an individual of resolute determination. For Angela Samota, that individual was Sheila Wysocki, her former college roommate and close friend. Sheila, a psychology major, was the antithesis of Angie. She grappled with dyslexia, faced academic challenges, and was introverted and reserved. Despite their disparities, the two forged a deep friendship. Both grew up without fathers, which likely contributed to their strong bond. Following the tragedy, Sheila left Southern Methodist University, unable to come to terms with the harsh reality of her friend's murder. She eventually moved on, marrying Charles and raising 2 sons in Tennessee. However, the specter of the past lingered. Tormented by Angie's unsolved murder, Sheila's life took an unexpected turn. Her evolution from a grieving friend to a resolute private investigator was nothing short of remarkable. Years after Angie's passing, Sheila, far removed from the realm of criminal investigation, found herself at a crossroads. Memories of Angie and the persistent need for closure spurred her into action. Fueled by a pledge made to Angie before her demise, a vow to always watch over each other, Sheila embarked on a journey that would alter her life irrevocably. What does it entail to solve a decades-old cold case? For Sheila, it necessitated a complete reinvention of herself. She became a licensed private investigator. Her objective was to bring Angie's perpetrator to justice, an arduous undertaking even for seasoned detectives. Nevertheless, Sheila's determination never faltered. She persistently reached out to the Dallas Police Department more than 700 times, imploring them to revisit Angie's case. Driven by a profound sense of loyalty and justice, her relentless efforts finally yielded results. In 2006, Sheila's unwavering determination led to the reopening of the case. The advancements in DNA technology presented new possibilities to explore. The previously collected DNA samples became the crucial key to unraveling the enigma surrounding Angie's murder. However, the question remained: who would the DNA implicate? Could it truly be that, after all these years, the solution to Angie's murder lay within the very evidence gathered from the start? Sheila Wysocki's unwavering commitment to preserving her friend's memory altered the course of events. Nevertheless, the journey was far from over. The path to justice is often convoluted and lengthy, and this case was no exception. The year 2008 marked a pivotal turning point in the Angela Samota case. After 24 years, a breakthrough was on the horizon, one that would stem from the very heart of modern forensic science: DNA analysis. Assigned to the case, Detective Linda Crum re-evaluated the DNA evidence using the latest technology. The samples collected decades ago were now poised to divulge their secrets. Contacting Sheila Wysocki, the detective uttered the words, "We have him." Sheila assumed she was referring to Russell Buchanan, but fate took an unexpected twist. The DNA found at the crime scene matched a name in the National Criminal Database. Donald Andrew Bess Jr., born on September 1, 1948, in Jefferson County, Arkansas, a convicted criminal already serving a life sentence for sexual assault. In 1985, Bess had been sentenced in Harris County, Texas, to life imprisonment for 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault and 1 count of aggravated kidnapping. He adamantly refused to cooperate with female police officers, resorting to derogatory terms when addressing women. The revelation was nothing short of shocking. Bess, during the time of Angie's murder, had been on parole while serving a 25-year sentence for sexual assault. He was a stranger to her, a transient predator whose path tragically intersected with Angie's. Equipped with this newfound evidence, the authorities acted swiftly. Bess faced capital murder charges for the sexual assault and murder of Angela Samota. The trial, which took place in 2010, marked the culmination of a long and arduous journey for justice, filled with pain and hope. Inside the courtroom, emotions ran high as evidence was presented and testimonies unfolded. Notably, Bess's ex-wife and several other women bravely took the stand, recounting his history of violence and sexual assault. Shockingly, even his own ex-wife testified that he had abused their child during their marriage. During the trial, Bess, who was already in poor health at 61 years old, suffered a heart attack, causing a 3-day delay. His defense team argued that the presence of his DNA at the crime scene did not definitively prove his guilt in the murder of Samota. They even suggested the possibility of consensual relations between Angie and the convicted criminal, insinuating that her choice of clothing that night indicated her comfort. In the closing arguments, the defense attorney raised a thought-provoking question, questioning whether the discovery of semen alone should automatically brand someone as a murderer. However, despite their efforts, the overwhelming evidence presented during the trial led the jury to unanimously find Donald Bess guilty, ultimately sentencing him to death. Prosecutor Pat Curlin expressed relief for Angie's loved ones, stating that she did not have to endure the pain inflicted by Bess any longer. However, the wheels of justice turned slowly for Bess. His appeals prolonged his stay on death row for several years, until his death in October 2022, caused by a heart attack while awaiting execution. While the verdict brought a sense of closure for Angie's family and friends, the pain of their loss remained. Furthermore, the conclusion of the trial did not mark the end of discussions and analysis surrounding the case. The lead investigator on the case shared his belief that Samota's attacker was already inside the apartment when her boyfriend, Ben McCall, knocked on the door, potentially triggering the fatal attack. According to the prosecutor, it is believed that when McCall knocked on the door, she made an attempt to get up or call for help. Additionally, the prosecutor is of the opinion that the suspect swiftly cleaned up and left the apartment while McCall was searching the neighborhood for Samota. For Sheila, solving Angie's murder marked only the beginning of her journey. She initially planned to retire once Samota's case was resolved. However, everything took a different turn when she started receiving letters from individuals desperately seeking answers regarding their own unsolved cases. This compelled her to continue her work as a private investigator. Sheila took on more than 100 cold cases and successfully solved at least 53 of them, providing closure to numerous families. The combination of advanced forensic technology and Sheila's unwavering determination to uncover the truth against all odds brought an end to one of Dallas's most perplexing mysteries. The resolution of this case prompted the Dallas Police Department to recognize the importance of allocating resources to cold cases. Angela's case ultimately transformed the approach of law enforcement towards unsolved crimes.
10 days prior to his disappearance on October 22, 1989, the last known video footage of 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling was captured. This is going to be one of the biggest missing person searches in American history. Last night, while riding his bike with two other boys, Jacob Wetterling was kidnapped and held at gunpoint. The FBI believes there may be more evidence that the kidnapper of Jacob Wetterling may have struck in the past. Jared Shiro was kidnapped and assaulted just 6 days before his 13th birthday in 1989, only 10 miles from Jacob's abduction location. A number of attacks on other young boys in Minnesota, including Jacob Wetterling, will be solved thanks to him decades later, in addition to his own case. In St. Joseph, Minnesota, 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling resides with his parents, Patty and Jerry, as well as his 3 siblings, Trevor, Amy, and Carmen. On October 22, 1989, a cool but not too cold October morning, Jacob and Jerry went fishing before returning in time for the Vikings game to kick off at noon. Watching Vikings football was somewhat of a family ritual. That evening, Jacob's parents traveled about 25 minutes to a friend's house for a dinner party. They had arranged for the kids to stay at home during their absence, as they intended to return later that evening. Dinner had just begun for them. Trevor calls Patty and asks if he, Jacob, Aaron, and the others can ride their bikes to the neighborhood convenience store and rent a movie. The kids keep asking, but Patty says, "No, find something to do. We have got plenty to do." It was beginning to get dark outside. As long as they brought flashlights and returned home immediately after, they were able to persuade Patty and Jerry to allow them to go shopping with their friend Aaron. Given that St. Joseph is typically a very calm place, the Wetterlings believe the kids will be all right as long as they keep an eye out for cars. Jerry answered the phone when it rang, which was about 45 minutes later. "You have to leave that party right now and come home," called their next-door neighbor. When Patty inquired as to whether the children had returned, he said, "Someone took Jacob." After witnessing something terrible, Patty and Jerry are appalled and run home to find Trevor and Aaron in a state of shock. Trevor was simply agitated, and Aaron was hiding in the corner, biting his nails and wanting to disappear. Tearfully, the children describe what transpired. Jacob, Trevor, and Aaron got on their bikes and rode home after purchasing a movie from the store. Aaron, however, abruptly became aware of a noise coming from the roadside. He felt something like a shiver run down his spine, and he saw what appeared to be a gun flash. The children were forced to get off their bikes and into a ditch by a man wearing a mask and brandishing a gun. They initially believed it to be a high school student pulling a practical joke, but they soon discovered the man was truly terrifying. If they did not lay down in the grass and put out their flashlights, he threatened to shoot them. They did as he instructed. He asked Trevor, Aaron, and Jacob to all look at him and tell him how old they were. Trevor was given the order to flee the woods as quickly as possible, or else he would shoot. Trevor was gone in 10 seconds, and he did the same thing with Aaron before telling him to run. Trevor and Aaron ran as fast as they could, knowing the man could decide to shoot them at any time. They turned around, hoping to see Jacob following them, but both Jacob and the attacker had vanished. In a panic, Trevor and Aaron returned home to seek assistance. They made their way to safety, but they were unaware of Jacob's whereabouts or the man's intentions toward him. The Wetterlings are heartbroken and in need of information regarding their son's whereabouts and his captor after hearing Trevor and Aaron's account. Trevor and Aaron provide as much information as they can regarding their assailant. One of the most extensive missing person searches in American history is launched in an attempt to find Jacob. Days go by, and no one is able to locate him. However, the Wetterlings may have their best chance of finding him in the form of Jared Shiro, a young victim. 9 months prior to Jacob's disappearance, on January 13, 1989, 12-year-old Jared Shiro was content with his family's life in Cold Spring, Minnesota, a small town located just 10 miles away from the Wetterlings. He and his friends went ice skating that evening. They then purchased malts from a cafe. What had seemed like a normal night soon turned gloomy. Jared approached his friend Corey as the boys prepared to leave for home. They strolled through the small alleyway in the backyard before Jared asked Corey to walk him home, but Corey turned him down. Jared bid farewell and set out on his lonesome walk home. However, his family became anxious when he failed to return on schedule. Nobody knew where Jared was, but his parents saw him running up to the house, upset, almost 2 hours after he said goodbye to his friends. He immediately claimed that he had been attacked and that the attacker was still at large. In order to have any chance of apprehending the man who had injured him, Jared had to relive this horrific experience after his parents had called the police. Jared probably started walking home at 9 o'clock or 9:30 p.m. A car pulled up to him and asked where it should go. He proceeded to direct the man. Grabbing Jared, the man asked him to get into the car after getting out of the vehicle. He declared that he is not scared to use his gun. Jared obeyed the man's instructions and made every effort to live. In an attempt to flee and utilize the information to help apprehend his assailant in the future, he examined the car as much as he could. He saw that the car had a police scanner in it. Jared remained alert, following their every move, even though the man forced him to put his hat over his eyes and lie down in the back seat. The man drove for approximately 15 minutes before turning onto a gravel road and coming to a stop. Fear took hold of Jared as the man walked toward him. The 12-year-old was then molested in the vehicle. When it was all over, Jared was scared and unsure of what the assailant would do to him next. To his surprise, however, the man drove him back to Cold Spring, which is roughly 2 miles away from the Sherrill residence. Returning Jared's snowsuit, he took some of Jared's other clothing, and before letting Jared go, he threatened him. He assured him that while discussing it with others was acceptable, he would track him down and murder him if they managed to uncover his identity. He threatened to shoot Jared if he turned around, so he told him to run. Desperate to escape, Jared ran back home. It is Jared's responsibility to explain what transpired after experiencing an unfathomable attack at such a young age. In an attempt to aid the authorities in apprehending this monster, He provides them with every detail he can recall regarding the car and the man who attacked him. Jared tells them about the police scanner in the car and claims to have been dressed in camouflage. He even gives them directions on the path they took by car. 3 days following Jared's kidnapping, authorities discover a potential culprit. Danny Heinrich, an ex-National Guard member. He has already had burglaries and other run-ins with the law, along with a few DWIs. He also had a police scanner in his car, which an officer discovered during a traffic stop, exactly like Jared had said. Jared recognizes 2 men in a picture lineup who he believes resemble his assailant. Heinrich was one of them. He is unable to identify a single suspect, and the police are unable to press charges. Jared has to go home because he knows the man who attacked him and threatened to kill him is still out there. Jared initially thinks he is the only victim of the man, but he soon discovers there are similarities between the abduction of himself and Jacob Wetterling, which took place in the neighboring town of St. Joseph later that year. Jared thinks he might be the same person, so he wants to do everything in his power to apprehend the offender and help find Jacob. On December 13, 1989, nearly 2 months after Jacob Wetterling vanished, Jared Shirel collaborates with FBI agents to create a drawing of the attacker. After noticing parallels between Danny Heinrich and the sketch, the FBI brings Heinrich in for questioning 3 days later. They inquire as to his whereabouts on the evenings of the kidnappings of Jacob and Jared. He consents to give them his shoes, a sample of his hair, and his car's tires since he has no other explanation. The resemblance between the tire and shoe prints found at Jacob's kidnapping scene aids law enforcement in obtaining a search warrant. They discover radio scanners, black boots, camouflage pants, and even pictures of young boys inside Heinrich's home. The police, however, allow him to keep the pictures and depart. Almost a year after Jared was attacked, on February 9, 1990, the FBI compares a snowsuit fiber sample with one from Danny Heinrich's vehicle. Based on solid evidence, he is being held for the kidnapping and sexual assault of Jared. FBI profilers assist in organizing the questioning. In an attempt to scare Heinrich and give the impression that they have a ton of evidence, they even cram documents into folders and write his name on them. But the truth is, they require his confession. He is detained in jail for the night, but he refuses to admit anything. The county attorney determines that they must release him because there is insufficient evidence to bring any charges against him. Though they are still unable to provide any solid evidence, suspicion grows and Jacob's family is determined to find him no matter what. Patty has persistently endeavored to maintain Jacob's public persona. She expressed her desire to never have to look Jacob in the eye and explained that she wanted to continue but got tired or that the process was taking too long. She vowed never to give up. Meanwhile, Jared is under increasing pressure. He is determined to provide answers and make the connection between his case and Jacob's. He is frequently pulled out of class by police. Furthermore, despite their best efforts to hide his identity, word quickly got out in the small town that he was the boy who had been molested. Even though he does not know who did it, he is continuously questioned and pressured by the police to confirm it. During one specific interview, the parents were not permitted to enter the room. He was quizzed on his level of certainty regarding the details after being thoroughly briefed on all the pertinent information. He did not have the answers, as much as he wanted to give them in depth. When he eventually started crying, his parents noticed and told the police they were through. In an effort to assist Jared in moving on and regaining his sense of normalcy as a child, his family chooses to leave Cold Spring. They wish to shield him from the mounting strain as well as the assailant, who is still at large. In an attempt to live a more tranquil life, they relocate to Painesville, Minnesota, a short distance away. However, Jared and his family will not learn about the horrors that are already occurring there for more than 20 years. The abduction of Jacob Wetterling and the case of Jared Shirel have remained unresolved for years. Finding Jacob and apprehending the person who took him seem to be out of the question. However, a discovery made by a blogger more than 20 years after the kidnappings will alter everything. Around 2013, Jared receives a message from Joy Baker. In Painesville, Minnesota, the town Jared and his family moved to after his assault in Cold Spring, only about 20 miles away. She came upon a newspaper article about a string of unsolved kidnappings and assaults of small boys. Multiple reports of a man terrorizing young children in Paynesville began in 1986, 3 years prior to the attacks by Jared and Jacob. He would follow children as they strolled or rode their bikes through the town. After grabbing them and asking their age, he would attack them and then release them. It never occurred to the police to apprehend the man or identify him. However, Joy Baker believes there may be a link between those attacks and the kidnappings of Jared and Jacob. Jared is taken aback when Joy speaks to him. He has never heard of these other cases in Paynesville before. They sound a lot like his kidnapping to Joy and Jared, and not even the FBI agents had made the connection between the two cases. Jared had believed for decades that he was the only survivor, so when he found out there were others as well, he set out to investigate further. He might be the link that the police need to locate Jacob and bring the attacker's victims, all the young boys and their families, to justice. Jared and Joy carry out more research over the course of the following few years. After many hours of investigation, Jared locates and gets in touch with other survivors. He spoke with one of the victims during the first week and only learned the specifics of his attack. They were at ease conversing with him. They knew who he was, and it had a cascading effect. Ultimately, following the completion of Jared and Joy's work, detectives re-examined Jared's and the Paynesville cases. Danny Heinrich, an early suspect who resided in Paynesville at the time, provided the authorities with a hair sample. Thanks to technological developments, detectives can now compare the DNA from Heinrich's hair sample and the clothing Jared wore the night of his attack. There is a match. Police now have concrete evidence that Heinrich is the one who attacked Jared, but Jared discovers that he will be unable to charge him with the crime. There are statutes of limitations in Jared's case, and Heinrich is immune from prosecution. That gave Jared the impression that he had worked hard to discover the solution and that, having done so, Heinrich would not face legal consequences. It was unjust to him. Even though Jared's case is not strong enough to convict Heinrich, he still wants to support the other families in need of clarification. Joy and Jared's efforts have allowed police to look into Jacob's disappearance more thoroughly. They obtain a warrant to search Heinrich's residence. They discover child pornographic binders, but no proof of Jacob or the Paynesville attacks. April Heinrich is taken into custody on charges of child pornography on July 28, 2015. Even though investigators think he took Jacob, they have not found any solid evidence yet. If Heinrich does not come clean, they might never find out where Jacob is or what happened to him. In their desperation to find the answers, they devise an astonishing bargain for him. In his case, he will not face any charges if he reveals to them where Jacob is. Additionally, all but one of the child pornography charges will be dropped. According to U.S. Attorney Andrew Luger, it is the only way to discover the truth. Additionally, the Wetterlings consent to present Heinrich with the offer. Heinrich accepts the arrangement. After just 10 minutes in court, the prosecutor asks, "Did you kidnap, sexually assault, and kill Jacob Wetterling?" To which he calmly replies, "Yes, I did," and proceeds to describe what transpired when he took Jacob. Heinrich believed that following the assault, he saw a police car in the area. He shot Jacob out of panic. In addition, he admits to kidnapping and sexually abusing Jared. He takes the police to a location just outside of Paynesville's downtown, where he buried Jacob's body. Danny Heinrich's plea agreement prevents him from being charged with Jacob's murder. However, he was given a 20-year prison sentence in 2016 for using child pornography. When he leaves, he will be in his 70s. The awful truth of Jacob's death has now set in. When the families learn the truth about what actually transpired almost 30 years ago, Patty Wetterling claims they almost experience a sense of peace, knowing that Jacob is not in pain. "I want to say, Jacob, I am so sorry," Patty said. "It hurts so much to know what his final days, hours, and minutes were." In order to assist families of missing children, Jacob's parents founded the Jacob Wetterling Foundation, which is currently known as the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center. Additionally, they try to pass the Jacob Wetterling Act, which mandates the creation of sex offender registries in each state. In addition to her role as chair of the board for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Patty Wetterling is a well-known advocate who never stops working to defend children and support other families. Had Jared Shire not shared his account and collaborated with Joy Baker to secure justice, the Wetterling family might not have been aware of Jacob's fate. The Wetterlings are still close to Jared and Joy today. They were instrumental in providing closure for many families that had been at odds for many years.